There is an hour that comes for you in the afternoon. The plates are cleared, the work half done, and something in you goes soft and heavy behind the eyes. You reach for the cup because that is what a body learns to do. But the cup is not the story here, and neither is going without it. The story is a tiredness that never arrived for the old farmers I knew, men and women past 70 who worked a field until dusk. They drank their coffee. They just never needed it the way you seem to need yours. My name is Noah Yoder, and I farm the same ground my grandfather cleared here in Lancaster County alongside my wife Ruth, who has more sense than I do about most things and would tell you so herself. I am no doctor. Let me have that plain and out in the open before we go a single step further. What I am is a man who spent a life watching how bodies hold up under real work and who got curious late about why some folks stay lit from dawn to dark while others run down by 2 in the afternoon. What I have is a farmer's kind of noticing and a few honest facts I went and checked with my own hands. Nothing I say here is meant to stand in for a doctor's word. Now let me clear away the first mistake, because the title of this video carries one on purpose, and I would rather correct it to your face than let it sit there and fool you. You may have heard that the Amish do not drink coffee. That is not true, and it is not anywhere close to true. Coffee runs all through our life like a creek across low ground. It is on the breakfast table before the sky is light. It comes back out with pie after supper. There is a pot kept warm on the stove for whoever walks in the door, because pouring a neighbor a cup is how we say welcome without making a speech of it. After the long church service, the fellowship meal has coffee in big thermoses down the tables, and the young folks drink it at their evening singings, the same as the gray heads do. My grandfather took his so strong and so black it could near stand a spoon straight up on its own. We even keep an old dish some of the older ones still make, from the lean years when the country was scraping by and nothing got thrown out. They called it coffee soup. You break day-old bread into a bowl, pour strong hot coffee over the top of it, stir in some milk and a little sugar, and you eat it warm with a spoon like a porridge. It was thrift more than anything, a way to use up bread gone hard and get something warm and sweet into a working body before first light. My own grandmother made it many a cold morning. So no, we are not a people who ever gave up the bean. We love the stuff, and we make no apology for it. So if we drink it too, and freely, then where on earth is the difference? It sits in one place, and this is the single thing I want you to carry out of all of this if you carry nothing else. Your cup and my cup are not doing the same job of work. When you drink yours, it is holding you up. It is propping open a body that wants to fall closed. When I drink mine, it is coming down onto a body already awake, already up and running and asking it for nothing at all. The coffee in the cup is the very same coffee. The ground underneath it is not the same ground. Mine sits on a floor that stands upright on its own. Yours is being asked to be the floor. So what builds that floor? What is it that has my old neighbors standing steady on their own 2 feet at 4 in the afternoon while you were down there fighting your own eyelids to a draw? It comes down to one thing more than any other, and once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it in yourself. Your body keeps a clock. Not the kind on the wall with 2 hands and a tick. A clock buried deep down inside you, far older than any pocket watch a man ever owned, that decides when you feel awake and when you feel spent, when your blood wants to get up and move and when it wants to bank down and settle. Every living thing on a farm keeps one. The rooster does not read the dawn by luck. The cows drift up to the gate near the same hour every evening with no soul out there calling them. That same clock is ticking away inside of you, and it has one job it cares about. It wants to line your body up with the sun. Here is the trouble with a clock like that. It cannot see the sun on its own. There is no window in it to look out of. It only ever knows what your two eyes tell it. Bright light coming in through the eyes says morning, says get up, says the day has broken and there is work in it. Darkness coming in says night, says ease yourself down, says rest is near at hand. That is the entire signal, start to finish. Light and dark, arriving through the eyes, setting the clock twice a day the way you would set a mantle clock of a morning, and again at night. Now set the day my grandfather lived against the day that is likely yours. His morning was blinding. Out the door before the dew had burned off, straight into an open field with nothing between his eyes and the wide open sky. His night was black as the inside of a shut barn, because when the lamp was blown out, there was no other light for miles around, no glow leaking under a door, no little lit screen throwing its blue up into his face from a nightstand. The day blinding, the night black as pitch, and the clock hearing a clean, loud word spoken on both ends of it. This is not just an old man say so. Some researchers came out here to Lancaster County a while back and fixed little light meters onto the wrists of 33 of our old order neighbors, ordinary grown men and women going about their lives. They had them wear the things around through their days and their nights across the turning seasons. Then they set what those wrists drank in against what a modern person's wrist drinks in. The gap they found was not a small one. The Amish they measured were living with something near 10 times the daily swing between bright day and true dark night that the modern world lives with. 10 times over, their days ran far brighter and their nights ran far darker, both ends of it hauled hard apart from each other. A clock like that gets set with a firm and certain hand, twice a day, every single day of the year. Yours gets handed a mush of a signal, and through no fault of your own doing, your daytimes is dim. An indoor room with every lamp burning, even a cheerful bright one, is only a thin slice of the light that comes pouring down onto an open field. Your eyes are kind enough never to tell you so, because eyes adjust themselves and make the dim feel like plenty. Then your night is not truly dark either. There is a screen glowing, or a hard bulb overhead, or a wash of streetlight coming in past the curtain, so your clock half hears morning at noon, faint and far off, and it half hears a second false little morning at 10 at night, off the screen in your hand. It never once gets a firm word in either direction. A clock set soft and set wrong keeps poor time, the same as any clock would. That heaviness of yours in the afternoon is a clock that has lost track of what hour your body is standing in. So what does a firmly set clock hand back to a person? The same folks who did that measuring, and others who have looked hard at how the Amish sleep, found just about the pattern you would guess. These are morning people down to the marrow. Larks by the old word. Up and sharp and moving while the best hours are still fresh, the finest of them spent, before much of the modern world has even found its slippers. They tend to get more sleep, not less of it. Their sleep comes at a steady hour and holds itself there, instead of wandering later and later across the week the way a modern person's is forever doing. And that heavier sadness that rolls in on some folks through the short gray days of deep winter, the kind that flattens a mood and drags a whole body down with it, turns up less often among them. Their weight and their inner workings tend to keep better order too. I will not oversell you a lick of this. These are leanings and tendencies, not iron promises carved in stone, and there are worn-out Amish in this world the same as anywhere else. But every one of the leanings points the one same direction, and that direction is a body running in good time with the sun overhead. And here is the part that ought to reach you if you are sitting there right about now deciding your own clock is a lost cause and past all mending. It is not. This drift can be walked back, and walking it back does not ask you to sell the house and move to a farm. Some researchers out in Colorado took a handful of regular town folks camping, out where there was nothing but honest sun by day and a low fire by night, no screens, no bulbs, no switches to flip. inside of a single week. The plain sun had pulled their clocks earlier, back toward where the body has always wanted to be. The evening sleepiness, now arriving close to 2 hours sooner, right around sundown, the way it once did for your own great-grandparents. Then they went and tried it with just a weekend, 2 short days of natural light, and most of that same drift came back to them anyway. A weekend. Their finding was plain enough that a farmer can hand it to you in one breath. Real daylight pulls your clock earlier. Bright light at night shoves your clock later. And your body will answer the sun far quicker than you would ever dare to expect of it. Now the light is the biggest single piece of this, but it does not stand out there alone, and I would be lying to you if I let you walk off thinking one thing carried the load by itself. There's a second thing, and it happens to pull in the very same direction as the first, so the two of them work together like a matched team of horses stepping in time. That second thing is honest work through the daylight hours. A body worked hard from dawn to dark. Somebody went and counted our steps too, if you can believe a thing like that. They clipped the little counters onto Amish men and women and let them go about a plain working week. The men came in around 18,000 steps in a single day, the women around 14,000. To hand you a fence post to measure that against, the same kind of counting done across a dozen modern nations found your ordinary grown person taking only a small fraction of that number. Our folks were moving somewhere near 6 times as much as the average person out in the modern world. Now that is not the treadmill sort of exercise, not one set-aside hour to sweat through, and after it, a day spent parked in a chair. It is a body in true motion from the milking before dawn, clear through to the last chore after supper, lifting and hauling and walking and stooping, all of it woven right into the daylight where the clock can watch it happen. Here is why that counts for more than you would think. And it ties straight back to the sun. A body worked honestly all day gets tired the right way by nightfall. Not the frayed, wired, cannot get settled tired of a person who sat dead still and stared into screens all day and is worn thin in the head while the body underneath never moved. The other kind, the good kind, that lies down and drops like a stone. And now hear this next part. Well, because the energy you are chasing does not get made during the daytime at all. It gets made down in the deep of the night, in the deepest stretch of your sleep, the way grain fills itself out in a dark barn and never once in the field. That deep sleep is the body's own workshop. It is where it patches up what the day tore loose, banks away what tomorrow means to spend, sets a tired mind back in its right order. A body worked tired sinks down deeper into that workshop and stays down there longer. Skip the work, and you skip the depth, and you rise in the morning having slept the hours through without ever quite resting. So the movement and the light do not sit as two little tips off a list. They make one thing, wearing two coats, daylight and hard use, both hands pulling the same rope. If this is the sort of plain talk you came looking for, the kind that respects your time and does not try to sell you a miracle in a brown bottle, then go on and subscribe and walk along with us a while. Ruth and I set one of these down together most every week. Gentle things for folks who would sooner mend the cause than keep chasing the symptom around the yard. That is the sum of what I will ask of you, and it costs you nothing. Now back to it. There is a third leg holding up this stool, and after that I will quit naming them off, because the aim was never to hand you a list to go memorize. It is the sleep itself and the shape it takes. Our folks are abed not long after the lamp goes out, and they are up and stirring before the sky has so much as thought about turning gray. The night is long, and it is dark, and it lands at the same hour tonight that it landed last night and will land again tomorrow, so the clock never has to stop and wonder, never gets jerked around from one day to the next. A rhythm you keep faithfully is a rhythm that comes back and keeps you. Same hour down, same hour up, dark room, long night. It is about the least exciting counsel in all the world. and it is worth more than a single thing you could ever buy in a store. And there is the matter of what goes into the body first thing. The Amish breakfast is a heavy, real four-square thing, and it is eaten early, before or just after the first round of chores is done. Eggs and meat and bread and potatoes, the sort of food that burns down slow and steady across a long morning like good seasoned hardwood in a stove, holding a body level and fed for hours on end. Ruth sends me out the door on that kind of a plate, and it carries me clear to the noon dinner bell without a single thought of a snack. Set that against the modern breakfast, which is too often some sweet flimsy thing, a pastry or a sugared cereal or a sweetened cup of something. It flares up bright and fast and burns clean out just as fast and drops you falling through the floor by the middle of the morning, grabbing after another sweet bite to haul yourself back up again. That climb and that drop over and over across a morning is its own quiet kind of exhausting. A little false energy borrowed at dawn and paid back with hard interest all day. Slow fuel eaten early keeps you standing level. It is one more plank laid across the clock, and every plank of it leans the same way. So let me set the entire matter back together in front of you, because this is the turn that changes how you see your own cup, and at the can, and at the pill, and at every last thing built to sell you a lift. That steady, all-day, never-crashing energy you have been chasing so hard, the thing you go looking for in a cup of coffee or a can of something with wings drawn on the label, or a pill, or a bigger dose once the first one quits on you. That steady energy is the exact same thing a well-set body clock hands a person for free, all day long, no borrowing against anything, no bill riding in behind it. Your body was built from the ground up to make that energy and hand it to you, if only you would let the sun set your clock and let true tiredness earn out your sleep. Coffee, at its most honest and best, is a small lift laid gently over a body that is already up on its feet. That is every bit of what it was ever meant to be. A little something extra, a plain pleasure, a warm cup shared across a table with a neighbor. It was never once built to be the engine underneath. And that right there is the entire modern trap. And I lay it out with no scolding in my voice at all. Because you were never told a word of this. You are leaning the weight of your day on the cup to paper over a body whose clock has gone soft and lost. A body living its days out in dim rooms with no real daylight anywhere in them, and no real work to honestly tire it. The caffeine covers over that gap for an hour or so, but it does not make one drop of energy out of nothing. It reaches on ahead and drags a little of tomorrow's energy back to you, spends it here today, and hands you the bill at 2 in the afternoon when it wears off and leaves you lower down than you were before you ever started. That is like a farmer eating up his own seed grain because he is hungry this one night. It quiets the belly for the evening, true enough, but it robs the very field he has got to plant come the spring. Every borrowed cup is a little more seed grain, eaten. Now I have got to stop here and be square with you, because I have seen far too many of these talks stand up and promise a man the moon, and I will not go and do that to you. What I have laid out for you is not a cure for anything under the sun, and it will not fix every last thing that leaves a body dragging. If your sleep is broken up by a real disorder, the kind where the breath quits on you in the night, or the rest will not come at all no matter what on earth you try, then no amount of morning light is going to mend it. You need a real doctor for that, and not a farmer. If your tiredness is coming up out of a thyroid gone sluggish, or a medicine you take that pulls you down low as a side effect of its own, or a real sickness working away quiet underneath, then light and rhythm are not your answer. I would be doing you real harm to sit here and suggest that they were. Those things belong to a doctor. And if you are already under a doctor's care for anything at all, you follow that doctor first and foremost. out ahead of any word some farmer says to you over the internet. What a well-set clock hands you is a body's best plain footing to stand up on, the strongest baseline the body can have under it. It is no switch you flip, and it is no shield held up against illness, and it is no one clever trick you pull while the rest of your life stays broken down around you. It is an entire way of living, and I have handed you only one corner of it here. There is nothing at all in this to buy. There is no bottle waiting at the end of it. I am not out here selling you the sun. Let me speak straight at you now, if you are a person past 60, because this lands its hardest blow right where you are standing, and hardly a soul ever stops to tell you why. As a body gets on up in its years, that clock inside it naturally gets fainter and quieter, and a good deal easier to knock clean off its beat. The sleep turns lighter and gets broken more easily, and the daytime pep is not the steady standing thing it once was back at 30. That is only the ordinary road every one of us walks, and there is no shame anywhere in it. I feel it myself now, some mornings, the clock a shade slower to catch than it was when I was a young man swinging a scythe. But here is the cruel twist of it. The very life the modern world hands to an older person, the indoor days, the low light, the sitting still, the long hours parked in a chair beside a window that lets in barely a tenth of what a body is crying out for. That life is the exact thing that starves an already fading clock the rest of the way down. The person who most sorely needs a strong dose of morning light and honest movement is so often the very one getting the least of either. If that is you sitting there, then understand this was never a thing meant for the young. It was meant for you. You are the one this stands to help the most of anybody. So here is the one thing I would have you do tomorrow, and it will cost you nothing at all, and I picked it out small on purpose so you will not have a single reason left to argue yourself back out of it. When you wake up, step outside and get real daylight onto your eyes early, in that first hour of the day before the day fills itself up and buries the chance from you. You do not stare straight at the sun, and I ought not have to say it, but I will say it. You just get yourself out under the open sky. Stand on the porch with your coffee, yes, your coffee, and drink it out there in the morning light, instead of hunched at the kitchen table. Walk down to the end of the drive and back up again. Sit yourself by a thrown-open door where the real morning can reach in and land on your face. Give that clock the one thing it has been starving after all this time, the loud, clean word of morning, delivered in through your eyes at the very hour it was always meant to arrive. Do that and keep on doing it day after day, and you may well find the cup slowly becomes what it should have been for you all along. Not the thing propping you up off the ground, only a good, warm pleasure, resting easy over a body that finally woke up on its own steam. That is the difference between my grandfather's cup and the one you have been leaning your weight on. His energy was not in the coffee. It was in the sun he stood under, the ground he worked over, and the dark he slept down in. Get the light onto your eyes tomorrow morning. Let the sun go and set your clock. The rest of it, given a little time, has a way of following along behind. This was Noah Yoder, from the farm my grandfather built with his own 2 hands, wishing you a long and awake and well-slept life. Go careful out there and go get yourself some sun.